Okay, now that we have good pseudocode for making a user input, I'm going to try to actually do that. And for rare occasion, blank sketch. I know, it's a big step. Scary, right? When it's blank? But the pseudocode will help us, because the pseudocode tells me what should my first thing be. What was the first thing I wanted to do? I want to declare a string called user input. So I'm going to make a string. How do I declare a string? Needs to be variable type, then you need an equal sign. That's true. I think you need something in between there. Nope. That's for an array. No, easier. You didn't name the silly thing. So, string username is, what do you want your, oh, not username, user input. Is what? What do you want to name? What do you want to set this to at the beginning? Nothing. How do you make an empty string? No, sorry. Close. Quotes. Quote, quote. Boom. Okay, now it's complaining that the user input variable is not used. Big surprise. Okay, then what's my first method I want to do? Shoot for, by the way, when you're coding from scratch, shoot for the low-hanging fruit first, and then make sure it's working as you go. Right? Don't try to write the whole program and then hit compile and see what happens. Like, get little bits to work. So what's our first easy thing? Yeah, setup seems chill. What do I want the setup method to return?
Nothing.
Nothing, so what do I write? Void setup. And then it gets parentheses. What goes in the parentheses?
Nothing.
Why nothing?
Void?
No. Close. Because it's not intended to... No, that's the void. The void's the return, and in the parentheses should be the things it gets. You don't intend the setup to get anything, right? It's just going to do its thing. It doesn't need parameters fed to it from somewhere.
Oh, I finally understand that. You said it a few times. I nodded and smiled, but...
Yeah, so in Mathland, the void is the character of the range object, right? That's the output of the function. And in the parentheses here is the inputs. So that's domain in the parentheses, range in the return.
The other things, you put stuff in here because parameters,
Yeah.
these things in, and then this thing happens.
Yeah, exactly. It takes those to do something. The void's, the setup method just doesn't need anything to start. So, now, what did I need to do in here? I needed a background. What do you want the background to be?
White.
Classic white. What should we remember about white backgrounds?
They're white?
They aren't black.
I think what we need to remember about white backgrounds is actually a thing we need to remember about text. But it's yeah, we need to change the text color, right? Because its default is white. Okay, so I need to... yeah, is that the command you use to change text color?
I think so.
No, it's actually fill. Okay, so what did I want the size to be?
400, 400?
I'm going to go with 400, 400. That seemed reasonable. Okay, so if I was doing a good job commenting, I'd be saying things like setup, window, and background. Text, color, size, align. So far I have color in there. How do you set the size? Yeah, perfect. And if you forget, what do you do?
Look it up.
Go frickin' Google it. right? So, what do I want the text size to be? What's a reasonable value for this?
14.
Ooh, that's small. Let's go with 32.
Okay.
14 is a reasonable size in an editor, right?
Oh, yeah.
But in these windows, especially when they're up on the projector, 32 is a nice, like, fat size. And we can always change that later, right? How about a line? Text, align, align, center, comma, center. Okay, cool. I'm pretty sure that's all right. What should I try? Yeah, hit go, see if it works.
There'll be nothing in the text, so I don't know, like.
Yeah, I didn't check any text, so maybe I should, like, throw a quick text box in, right?
Why is it text align double center?
Centering, that's centering the X, Y, the X and also the Y. It doesn't particularly matter. In this case, I want to, I don't know why I did this. So, text, what do I put in to print some test text?
Don't you put it in quotation marks?
I do need to put it in quotations because it should be a string, right?
Yeah.
So, maybe test.
And then where at? So it's
Yeah,
gonna be
where at.
divided by 2, height divided by 2.
I thought the text line would do that.
The text align. The text align is like a ellipse mode. It's telling you where the text box is controlled from.
Okay.
So this is going to put the center of the text box at width over 2, comma height over 2. So we should get, and it's a fair point that I don't actually like this thing. Let me try a fun new thing I found out. No, I found out this morning that you can do this. What?
Oh, is that where it starts and where it ends?
What the heck is that doing?
What are those inputs?
How would we find out? How'd you find out?
Ask the guy that is right in front of us.
Ask the guy who just did it. Go to processing, text, right? I'm interested in this thing. If I scroll down here, I find start, stop, X, Y. So, starts the place, the array index at which to start and stop, and X and Y. Oh. You guys see what that did?
We didn't have an array.
Yeah, I didn't have an array. Oh, maybe it's this one. See that? Because I was passing it a string, right? Not a character.
Yeah.
So instead of passing it a character array, I passed it a string. So I'm actually in this mode, where I've got x1s. So that's the x-coordinate, the y-coordinate, the width, and the height, right? That's that whole text box. So that's making that entire window a text box. So if I type in there, it'll stay in the box and not run off the sides of the screen. Isn't that rad? So if we go back in here and put some giant thing in there, it'll wrap around all on its own. Cool?
But does it know centers but not where?
It does not give any hoots about words, not words. It is, at this point, just outputting literally what I put in there.
We just put in the sentence there, and then you had duck at the end, and that D was just like D and up would be over here. Like, it wouldn't consider that this is a string of things and needs to be together.
Well, I mean,
That's a good thing. That's a good question. It is not word wrap, right? It doesn't know spaces from not spaces. It's just characters. At least that's my inclination. I have not actually tried that, so I'm not totally sure. Okay. Anyway. Anyway, I think I got my text in roughly the mode I want it to be in.
Change it back. If it's not text wrap, you can just leave them on characters.
Yeah, we could certainly limit the length of the user input string somehow. That would be a reasonable thing. Another thing we could do is we could spend a whole bunch of time developing a way to make it word wrap in the text box using like if statements or something. But that would be hard. So let's do something easier instead. Let's do our draw method. What's your draw method? Return?
Enter your username. So we're gonna have a text.
Whoa. What do you intend your draw method to return?
Words.
Nothing.
Words. Oh, I see.
What do I intend it to do is different than what do I intend it to return. You guys see that? Like, I don't intend for this thing to do a calculation or something and then give me a number back. I intend for it to just draw. Right? Which is a doing, not a returning. So, what's the deal with the parentheses again? What are those telling you? Yeah, I'm not sending it anything. It's not getting any parameters from me. It's not expecting any parameters from me, and I'm not giving it any. Cool? Alright, what do I want in the draw? I want a prompt, right?
Right.
Oh, I had a thing for a prompt-ish.
I was thinking we should make it, we should add a boolean here, where if it's true that it has, enter username, and then when you enter a username and press enter, it's false, so that line goes away.
That's not a bad idea. We could certainly do that. I'm going to do the pseudocode that I wrote first, and then maybe we can make improvements. So if I want to... Yeah, it's a good idea. But I just want to get the simple thing working first, and then I'll move on to making it better, right? So what do you want in your text box for your prompt?
Hello. Welcome. Okay, does that mean enter some stuff or pressing enter on some stuff? What are you talking about? Your expectations aren't clear, Joe.
Type something. Okay, and where do I want that prompt to be displayed? Because I probably don't want that to be that giant text box, right? Where do you want your prompt?
Like center top-ish.
Yeah, center top-ish seems legit. So I want that at like width over 2, right? And
Height over
4
height over 2 minus 100.
sure, yeah, there's lots of ways to get this formula. I might just do 30. Right? Like, I'm going to kick it down a bit. We can kick it down some more. That might be reasonable. Other things are also reasonable. What's up?
I was going to say that's usually why we have those final integers, so we have an int that is the text size, and then that's how far we should probably kick it down.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So, it's reasonable to kick it down by the same amount as the text size. And it's probably a better, like, coding-wise, it's a better idea to put this in as a variable, right? That depends on the size of the window a little bit. I'm just sticking at one heights width or one text width wide down from the top. But yeah, it's a good idea to kind of code that somehow. All right, what else? What else?
Display user input.
Yeah, I want to put the user input in there. So I have this thing again. That just happened to still be in my clipboard. What do I want it to actually...
Call it S input, and you have to declare a string and make the variable. Declare a string variable, and then.
Easier. I already did that.
Oh, you already did.
Right, I already made my user input string up here. So I'm just going to Oop. Spell it right. So, what's that going to do right now?
Go ahead. Well, display the user input, which is nothing.
Yeah, so right here there's an empty string being displayed. If I want to just test that quick. Oops, that's not how you spell test. It's close. Uh-oh. Ended up here.
Type this thing.
What's up with that?
You just have it in the same. You didn't tell the thing where the text. It's just in the same spot.
Yeah, this is that text box again, right?
Yeah.
So if I put my other center back in here, I think it'll put it in the right spot. Sweet. Cool. Questions? Okay, now what? What was my next thing I wanted to implement in my pseudocode?
Key press thing.
Yeah. So now I've got everything working except it's still not taking any user input. So what method do I want to name here? Oh, that's not a bad idea, actually. This method should, by all rights, be called something like getUserInput, right? Unfortunately, there's already a built-in method that I want to use. So, do you guys remember the kind of built-in method you got mouse clicks to work? What was that thing's name?
Mouse press.
Yeah, mouse pressed. So, key pressed is also a built-in. Let's see, and it's key pressed.
Why is I don't understand, but why is void key pressed if you are putting things into it? You're kind of getting things out of it, right?
I don't intend to call this method specifically and get something back, right? I intend to call this method and have it do something to my global variable, which is that user input string. You guys see that? So it's going to go modify the user input string. It's not going to do anything else. Like, it's not going to return a value. We could certainly code this so that it returned the key press, and then we could stick that on to the user input. But for some reason, I decided to do it this way. All right. So the key pressed method. So the reason that I decided to do it this way, now that I'm thinking about it, is that I want those delete and backspace things to happen, right? And I don't want to have to deal with parsing them after I call the keyPressed method. I just parse them in the keyPressed method. What do I want? What's my first if? And how do I code it?
Is already a thing that like defines all of the characters as characters, or do you need to like do for each one?
Okay, let's try our special friend Google. Special keys processing. Keycode. Keycode. Variable keycodes used to detect special keys. When checking for these keys, it can be useful to check first if the key is coded. If key equals coded. Ah, okay. So, do I want the key to be coded? Like, is that what I'm interested in?
I think so. Like backspace? Wait, no.
So backspace and delete are coded keys, right? What are the other examples of coded keys? Like, yeah, there's like a whole bunch of keys that I don't want them to do anything, right? You guys see that? So like, oh, the coded ones are the ones that I don't want to deal with. You guys see that? So my first if statement in here should be like, if key, oh look, that turned red, that's cool. What's it complaining about now? It's not a Boolean. It's like, yo, dude, that's not a Boolean. I don't know how to if that. Right? Because that's going to return like A or shift. Right? If shift. Shift isn't true or false. It's just a thing. So you want to make this so that if it's like a regular key.
If key coded equals false.
Yeah. Nice. So I want to know that the key is not coded. Right? Because the coded ones are the special ones. The regular ones are not coded. So if I do, if key is not coded.
Just out of curiosity, could you put the exclamation mark on the other side of equals? Would that work?
Let's try. Let me make this do something. What did I want to do if the key wasn't coded? If the key was a regular key, I want to...
Add the key to the user input string.
Yeah, stick it on the end of the user input string, right? Okay. That's something we haven't done before, right? Turns out, it's really easy. You do it just like you would with a number.
Nice.
Not all languages are this frickin' slick.
Ugh.
Lots of languages are a major pain in the ass. Like for C, just F doing this. Just don't do this in C. It's not worth it. Just get a new language.
Like programming every letter.
What you have to do is, in C, strings are actually arrays of characters. So the first thing you have to do is make the character array longer, and then put the key into the last slot.
Usually the trick is to make a second array and have it overlap the other one. Like,
Yeah.
literally rip the other one out, just throw away, make it.
Yeah, and also C doesn't... Well, C's great for some things. C is super, super fast for doing, like, computation, like, math stuff. Like, if you want to know the 400 millionth digit of pi, C is your jam. Super easy. It'll do it in probably half the time of Python. Probably a third the time of Java. But if you want to get user input and parse it out, just get a new one. Just do it in something else. Okay, let's see if this works. Type something. L. Crap.
Keep trying.
Okay, what did I screw up? Okay, so when you have screwed up code, right? What do you do? Yeah, print line something, see what it's doing. So
Do you want that in there or in draw?
that's a good question. Let me also put something in my user input, right, to start with, so that I can see that it's being displayed. So I got my test out.
Oh, now it's
Oh, and now it's kind of working, but what the hell, man?
It's
Like-
so it's not removing the old string then, right? It's just putting a new one on top of it, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's just redrawing over the top again. Oh. What did I screw up?
You can
You can put it back around line.
Yeah. I put my background in the setup window, right? Where should it be? Yeah, it should be in the draw if you want to erase. Alternatively, we could put it in the key press method, right?
If you put it in the draw, it'll just keep erasing whatever you put in.
And then it'll keep, so it'll erase it, right? And then it'll put the prompt in, and then put the other thing in, and then erase it again. Ha! Cool! Huzzah! What was this? You guys probably can't see what I'm pressing up here. This is me trying to hit backspace. And here's caps lock.
Oh, press enter.
Caps lock doesn't do anything, that's cool. Enter.
It works.
Oh, enter works the way I expect it to. Oh look, caps lock is working, that's cool. Let's see, shift.
That works.
Shift seems to work.
Ooh, characters
Yeah.
Ooh, mousepad works.
Brackets and stuff. Oh. And now I'm out of my text box, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, problems?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't hit backspace, and deletes is also not working for the record. You guys see that print line there?
So you have one chance. Don't screw up.
Yeah, you get one try with this. Okay, so let's get editing in there. So, what were my other ifs?
If key is coded,
Okay,
is backspace, that's a good thing.
so we should be doing else ifs. Uh-oh. Else if? There we go. So why am I doing else ifs?
Else, there are multiple ways it could go, and else if it's a backspace, you do one thing, but else if it's another, a delete, you do another thing.
It's essentially, if it falls into the key is not coded spot, I don't need to check these other two if statements. Right? Because, like, if it's a letter, right, then it'll execute the key is not coded stuff and stop. Right? It won't do it won't run through the other if statements and check them. This is important, really, if you have giant blocks of code in each statement. If you're going to do something serious in each statement, you don't want to have it run through each of those unless it has to. What's up?
I just have a question. If it only prints if its key does not equal coded, how is it printing backspace and delete?
Oh, this thing?
Yeah.
It's...
Well, it's in the.
Oh, you're right. It is in there. I don't know why it's printing those.
Maybe those keys aren't coded.
They are coded, but they're coded specifically. Let me show you. Let me show you what they're coded as. How about that? Because yeah, this is one of the things that, one of the reasons that I'm rewriting this program in front of you instead of having you just use the one that I emailed to you the other day. The one that I emailed to you the other day was written in processing 1. And so it deals with keys a little bit differently. And apparently I didn't even quite understand what all of those differences were. Because Ben's exactly right. In here, it shouldn't be trying to append backspace to anything. And yet it is. So, even the API, right, says backspace is a coded key. But apparently backspace is both a coded key and a not coded key. And I knew that some of that was going to be an issue, but I didn't see it here. I should have. So, to get the backspace key to work, if key is backspace, right? Actually, let's do delete first, because that one's easier conceptually. So, what did my pseudocode say? If the key is delete, what should it do? Yeah, we should set user input equal to double quotes, right? Erase the whole frickin' thing. Alright, so let's see if that works. If that doesn't work, we might have bugger.
You didn't say if key is
Oh.
coded, key is
Bummer.
because delete is coded.
You guys see that? Apparently, delete is coded.
Well, a delete deletes in front of the text, so how would it even do anything in the first place?
It shouldn't matter. Let me demonstrate.
So if key is not coded and key is not deleted.
Yeah, I think I need to kind of protect from using the delete key. But now I've got it working because I took it out of the else if. You guys see that? That was a dirty trick. Probably we should do this with else ifs and be more appropriate. If we're going to do it with else ifs, we'd want... So if the key isn't coded and if the key isn't delete. spell delete, though. Let's try it now. Stuff, delete, stuff, delete. Cool. Sure, hit me.
When you're going key equals coded, why is there that thing in front of them that I can't actually see because I don't have
This
the
guy?
glasses? No.
Oh, this is an exclamation point. So that's if key isn't coded.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Right, so I was hoping to get all the uncoded keys. In other words, I was hoping to get all the keys except for the list in the API that are under coded keys, right? So that's backspace, tab, enter, return, escape, delete, whatever, right? But apparently those things are coded and also count as not coded, which is super bizarre. Apparently keys are not doors. Doors are either open or closed, right? Apparently keys can be both open and closed. Alright, backspace? Backspace is going to be weird. So, what do I want backspace to do? Oh, I also want to put that one up here. Okay, so I want else if key is backspace. What do I want it to do?
User input minus the last key pressed.
Yeah, I want it to take away the last character, right? Okay, and this is where it gets weird, right? Okay, so pay special attention to this. I'm going to make a user input overwrite, right? So I'm going to overwrite the user input string with user input dot substring Okay, and now it's whining at me. So what's a substring?
I'm guessing it's a subset of the string.
Yeah, it's going to be a sub-chunk of this string. So which sub-chunk of this string do you want? You, yeah, you want from the beginning to the length minus 1, right? So let's go check the substring documentation and see if that's going to do what we think it should. Oops. Substring processing. Okay, what do you do? So if we have a string that's 3 C's and a P here, apparently if we pass substring 2, it returns the first 2 characters, right? Oh no, that's the last shoot. Right? How do I get it to return the first 2? You guys see this? I need this one, right? The beginning and end index. Because otherwise it just starts at the beginning index and gets the rest. So I want to start at
that substring 0, 2.
Yeah, so I want to go from 0 up to yeah, the length of it minus 1, right? Variable length does not exist. What did you want to take the length of? Yeah. Uh-oh. It doesn't like that either. Shh. Everybody Google it. Figure out how long a string is. Probably want something like string length processing. What? It just does what I said it did. It is length. What did I dork up? Yeah. You guys see it? Anybody see it? Yeah, it's a freaking method. You need to tell it that you're not passing it anything, right? This is calling the length method on the user input object, right? So you're calling the length method on this string. You need to tell it what you're passing it. Even if you're not passing it anything, you need to say, hey, I'm not passing you anything. You guys down with that? Okay. What's this substring thing? Speaking of methods. Yeah, it's a method that you're applying to the username thing, right? Okay, so hit it. See if it works. Test. Backspace. Backspace. Why doesn't it work right away? It's actually a thing worth noting. If I'm pushing backspace... Oh, now it's working. What the hell? You guys know what's up with this? The key pressed method only activates if you have that window selected. Right, so if you like go down here and select, something else, it doesn't do anything. Because that's not the active window.
That makes sense.
And sometimes the first time you run it, it'll pop to the top and won't be the active window. I found that out this morning. I spent about 30 seconds being like, what the actual... like, what is wrong with my code? Turns out nothing is wrong with your code.
Is there a way to make the type that indicates that there's a text box there?
Yes, I'm absolutely certain there is. I don't know it off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't know it off the top of my head. Do you know it, Ben?
I'm pretty sure the pipe key is one of the non-coded, so if you just have it like add the pipe key, remove the pipe key, add the pipe key, like something like that.
Yeah, we could do that.
But then hold up, if we're typing while that's occurring, with the pipes added, then they add a bunch of other stuff, and then it's only so. Oh,
No, it should be fine. So you could fake put it on the. So here, when you do text, right? You do user input plus pipe, right? And now this will stick a pipe on the end, right? And regardless of what I've got that pipe on the end, right? And then, of course, you can make this blink, right? By alternating between this and this without it. Right? Like, that would be the poor man's way to do it. And you could do that every time it loops through the draw command. You could make a little boolean that flips every time you go through. Or you could count it with the frame count or the millis command. Like, any of those would work. But yeah. Yeah, that you should be typing here, right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's do the poor man's... I think we can get a poor man's version working pretty easily with a boolean, right? So we want if... What, like...
Blinker.
Yeah, sure. Blinker. And remember, if blinker is going to be a boolean, right? Yeah, I'll have to declare it up here. So I'll make my boolean blinker which I should initialize to, sure, be boring, make it true to start with. Oh, true does not exist, because true lowercase is what you want to initialize it as. Let's see, so I have if blinker, print this, then I want else. What do I want it to do otherwise?
Text user input without the part.
Take the pipe out, print the other thing instead. And then what else do I need to do here?
Under each of the texts, blinker equal to not blinker.
Well, you just do that here.
Yeah, I just want it to flip anyway. Right? Equals not blinker. This is going to be really fast. Oh, and also it's weird because I have that centering on, right? So probably,
Blinker, do user input plus space.
yep, that'll stop it from being super duper annoying. Still really, really fast. Right? Because it's looping through 60 times a second. But at least it's there. You could slow it down by using the millis command. That would be a better way to do this. Or the frame count command. Like, flip it every 10 or 15 frames. Alternatively, I think we haven't done this yet. We could slow down the frame rate. So what would I Google to figure out how to slow down the draw command? Or the draw loop.
Refresh rate.
Draw, processing, refresh rate. Guessing it's a frame rate. There we go. So, frame rate. Specifies the number of frames. For example, the default rate is 60 frames a second. Okay, so up here in setup, if I set frame rate, what's a reasonable frame rate? 1 frame a second. Yeah, I think maybe, sure, something. It's still wiggling a little bit. Why is it wiggling a little bit?
It's because the pipe takes up more space than the space bar.
Yeah, because the pipe's a little bit bigger than the space bar. But it's kind of doing what I wanted it to do. And we could probably cut this to like 3. That's not too bad. Oh, except now it takes really long time to refresh.
Can we just have the frame rate in that?
Could you separate the frame rates?
Let's see. Could you separate the frame rates? Probably your best option would be to use a better way to keep track of when you're switching. I kind of hacked this, and it wasn't a great solution. It's kind of working, but it's not what I really want.
You could do a modulo like that adds one to integer every time it refreshes, and then like every 15 frames or whatever.
Yeah, I'd probably set the blinker to not blinker every time the modulo of the millis goes to like 1,000 or something. What's up?
Can I just give some advice? So,
Yeah, sure.
If we didn't know that was frame rate, if we instead typed in processing to draw and then draw.
Yeah.
At the bottom, there's related methods, so you might figure out from there.
That's a really good point. So if you Google something related, right? Like I want to know something about the draw method. So if I go in the draw method, all the way down here at the bottom, there's all these like, these are related things. So like if I want to do stuff with strings like I was doing today, right, it might be a good idea to just do string processing and just see what my options are. So if I go down in the bottom here, there's like, oh, there's all sorts of commands for strings, right? There's like character at, equals, index of, length, substring, to lowercase. Oh, cool, we can capitalize and uncapitalize stuff. You guys kind of cool with that? All right. I think I have this thing kind of working the way I want. Have I executed all the subcode or all the pseudocode that I wanted?
And then some.
Yeah, and then a little bit, I think. So I'm gonna